This is Eric Mwathe for the weekend of October 26th, 2013. Let's take a look at how the markets ended the week. We are looking at the Dow, which was called up for the week 1.1%. The Nasdaq was up 0.74%. And the S&P 500 for the week was up 0.88%, closing at all-time highs. If we take a look at the weekly charts for the Dow, actually for the Nasdaq, we see that we are trading way off the 10-week moving average. So really this market could correct and still be on a very strong climb up. So very strong market and just defying all odds. Very strong. You can see where the RSI is trading. That's just a sign of strength. If we take a look at the Nasdaq daily, you see that we've been trading above this channel, which was, we were expecting resistance here, but the market blasted out of that range, and so trading above this range here, very strong. Like I said, the only thing about the market that you could question is what the RSI is trying to do. We still have this negative divergence on the Nasdaq daily chart, which could stall the current move. For now, market trading at this negative divergence line. We'll see whether the market can continue pushing higher or not. If we take a look at the MACDs and have three different MACD timeframes here, or MACD settings, most of them are pointing higher. So the momentum still, even on the daily chart, remains to be positive as far as the general market is concerned. If we take a look at the Dow weekly, you see that the Dow is lagging the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. The Dow has an opportunity of breaking out, very close to a breakout level of 15,658. So this weekly closing high could be where the market needs to test in the coming week or so. So very close to that breakout level. The previous breakout attempt failed here. We'll see whether the market can take out this high. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq have already broken out, looking very good. So we also come back to this weekly chart on the RSI. We see that this has now formed a double bottom, and the market could continue pushing higher here, very close to a breakout on that Dow weekly chart. If we take a look at the transports, and you see they closed very strong. Take a look at this close. This is a follow-through week, actually 2 weeks above that breakout level. Previous breakout level was 66.92. So the market has powered ahead here on the transports, and if the transports are leading this market, or at least showing strength, then this market could have more upside. You see that this is breaking out. Previously, about 2 weeks ago, we thought that this was going to be resistance, but you can see the market chose to take out that negative divergence. Now, if you take a look at the Dow transports, you'll see that they broke out. As far as the daily RSI is concerned, you can see this move here, right there, to new highs above those daily highs on the RSI on the daily. We were expecting some kind of resistance to take place around here. We were expecting some kind of resistance, but that never took place. So that market is breaking out. I would not really be calling for a top here until the market forms one. It's a very strong looking market. We have to respect what we see. If we take a look at the S&P 500, following through on its weekly breakout above 1709.67, very strong again, close to the week here, 2 weeks above that breakout level there. Absolutely powerful looking market. If we take a look at the RSI, it's getting very close to that 69.10 there. So this thing could still have the possibility of moving higher. We have to be very careful here. If we take a look at the daily for the S&P 500, and what we see here, it is still above this channel. We're expecting resistance around this channel here, top lines. That hasn't taken place. Market stays above that. Very strong market. Now that could be a trap in the long run, but for now, very strong breakout above that channel. And also if we take a look at the RSI, we still remain within this area where the market could conceivably stall around here. So this could still be an area of the market stalling, but for now, we have to go with this breakout here. Very strong. We have to respect that. But if we come into the new week with the market stalling, forming a double top there,
here on the daily RSI, then this market could have seen short-term highs, maybe long-term highs, who knows. If we take a look at the BKX, see what the financials are doing. Let's begin with the daily here. You see that the daily seems to have formed some type of a resistance on the daily RSI. Here we were expecting resistance around that level, and we got that resistance on the on the financial space. This area has been resistance also. So anyway, still trading above the 50-day moving average. So it's not a broken market by any means. Still trading above the 50-day moving average, which is here. So this market could still recapture itself and find enough momentum to eventually break out. Given this chart here, maybe this is one of the areas of the market that is showing us that the market could pull back, given that this chart is not on breakout mode like the rest of the market. If we take a look at the other sectors, let's take a look at the IYR, which I noticed was breaking out. So back above the 200-day moving average. The entry point recently, if you were playing long here, was this breakout here. So it ended the week very strong. Very nice move here. We'll see that it can hold that move. So now we come to this area, which was a previous break point. So this area here, the break point previously is being tested here. So we see that the market can hold above that level. So previous break point being tested, which is going to be in this general area here, where the market broke down here. The market broke down there. We had this drop here. So we'll see whether the market has come back to that break point here. We'll see whether this is going to be resistance or not. That tends to be an area of resistance. If we take a look at the BKX from a daily view or from a weekly chart, actually this is the BKX. Well, I think I've gone back to the BKX, but what is interesting, I just noticed this right now, is seems to be a store point here on the BKX. Also surprising, had a negative week when the market was positive. No, I had not noticed that. But let's go back to that IYR weekly chart, which is what I was trying to show you. So IYR on the weekly time frame. And, we ended the week positive here, but notice this is an area where previously we stalled, which is that high on the weekly RSI, which is that high there. And so we are back in this general area. It would not surprise me if this also becomes short-term highs. So we'll see what happens. We also have to respect that as of right now, we are looking at the possibility of a crossover between the moving averages here. So this could be different this time around. We'll see what happens. What I'm going to watch for the new week is whether this continues to power ahead, or if we stall, then we are going to have resistance like we did here, which was this high. So we're going to watch for either continued move or a stall point here, which would mean that the next move in this market is going to be to the downside. So either way, the new week is going to tell us which way that market wants to go. Let's take a look at the semiconductors here, which represent another area of technology. Let's start with the daily. And you see the daily here, here's a market that is, for some strange reason, is not at new highs. So we see that the RSI stalled the previous movement higher. So that was an area we were watching coming into the new week. And so because we had negative divergence, we were making higher highs here in price, but the technicals were not following through. And as we can see, that has led to a market that is lower, but still above the 50-day moving average. So still a constructive market. If we take a look at the weekly, see what we got. And on the weekly time frame, interestingly enough, we came into the new week expecting some kind of resistance or a test of this channel here. That seems to have been rejected, and so now we are heading low on the weekly time frame for the stocks. And also notice that we have negative divergence. So this could be something that could concern the market. So the rest of the video, we're going to be talking about world markets. We're going to talk about Europe, we'll talk about China, Japan, Hong Kong, Brazil. We'll also touch on some other commodities named like silver. We'll touch on gold. We're going to touch on copper and steel. We'll see how the commodities are doing also for the rest of the video. And also I'm going to have 3 stock picks at the tail end. So make sure you watch those stock picks.
Now, if we take a look at world markets, and I'm going to break this down into world markets that are looking strong and then world markets that are looking like they are stalling. So let's begin with the ones that are stalling, and we begin with Brazil here. Now, Brazil had an opportunity of breaking out above this level here, but after this congestion and a period to digest its intention, it looks like it formed a double top on the daily RSI, and that, I believe, could be a reason for a stall of this breakout. So for now, it doesn't look like it wants to break out given this double top on the daily RSI for the Brazilian market. If we take a look at the Brazilian market from a weekly standpoint, now you'll see that first and foremost we have these top lines on the weekly chart, on the price channel. We hit that level and we seem to be reversing. And also, if you take a look at the highs of the RSI on a weekly time frame, if you draw a straight line connecting the highs, you see that we hit that level precisely at that point, and you can see every time we hit this level here, like in beginning of 2013, we hit that price range and that RSI level, and we had this big drop. So we've come back and hit that precise level. This could be an area where you'd expect this market to start stalling, maybe even farther. Now, if we take a look at the French market, another market that could be stalling, let's begin with the daily here. And it's been trading in this very nice bullish channel here. So trend is still to the upside in a nice bull market here for the French market. It seems to be very close to the top edges of this price channel. If you take a look at the RSI, we've been making these incremental highs here, fresh highs here, and yet technicals are making lower lows. So this negative divergence could push this market lower in the coming days and weeks. If we take a look at the French market from a weekly standpoint, we see that still remaining in a very nice bull trend. As you can see, the prices are still moving higher here. Nice channel. So this is a bull market right here. The thing about it is it's been stalling on the weekly RSIs at this level here. So this has been an area of resistance, hasn't been able to move above that. A good push in price is going to come when this RSI breaks out, but we haven't seen the RSI on a weekly time frame breakout, so it remains to be seen which direction it's going to pick. For now, it looks like it's resistance, so that's why I'm putting this among the list of emerging markets or world markets that seem to be stalling. If we take a look at the Hong Kong market, let's begin with the daily. And you see from the daily, take the highs in price there, and this high on a daily closing basis, we see that we stall precisely at that price top lines. So we are drifting off those highs. We'll see whether this is going to find support at the 50-day moving average or at the 200-day moving average. Right now, the thing I can say here is the top lines here seems to have been rejected, and now we have this pullback already taking place. If we take a look at the weekly, you see the same development here on the weekly. Take the highs on the weekly from going back to 2011, early 2011 to the highs of early 2013. Draw a straight line. You see that we've tried to close above this level on multiple weeks, and this week failed to do so. Moving above that was not possible, so now we've been rejected and trading back at the 10-week moving average. You also see that this is an area on the RSI where recent highs were formed, which is this high. And now we've come back to this general area here, and we formed a double top on the weekly. Might suggest lower prices in the coming weeks. Now, if we take a look at another market that seems to be stalling, it is China. We're going to begin with the daily. And the daily for the Chinese market, if you take the daily closing high there and this daily closing high, draw a straight line, you see that this market has been rejected at that level and again at that level here. We seem to be moving back below the 10-week, back below the 200-day moving average there, and now trading very close to the 50-day moving average. So we'll see how this market can find support at the 50 and move higher. So trading around the 50 after rejection from this price channel top lines, maybe we are going to form a base here before we consider moving to the upside. If we take a look at the weekly for the Chinese market, what we see here is a long-term channel here. Take the highs of early 2011, highs of early 2013. On a weekly closing basis, we've been unable to close above that line, and now we seem to be pulling back to the 10-week moving average. So this pullback also comes with a double top forming on the weekly RSI time frame, which shows that this could be suggestive of lower prices for weeks and for months. Let's take a look at one more, and it's Japan Daily. And if you take a look at Japan Daily, you see that ever since we formed this top here, we've been rejected twice here, actually on multiple occasions. We've been unable to move above this level here, this high. Also notice that comes with the RSI daily top lines resistance here, and Japan was down about 2%, so back below the 50-day moving average. This RSI top lines resistance was very accurate in predicting a top. So we'll see whether this Japanese market is going to find support eventually at this 200-day moving average. It hasn't touched a 200-day moving average going all the way back to November of 2012. So this could be, I think if this is really coming back to the 200-day moving average, that might suggest that the US market could also be in pullback mode here in the coming days, if not in a matter of weeks. But we'll see what happens here. Also, back close to this trend line here, which has been support. This trend line connects the lows of November 2012 and this low here, and recently this low. So if we can defend that level, that's good. If we break below that level, the next support could be at the 200-day moving average. Now let's take a look at markets that are doing well, and we're going to begin with the German market here on the daily. See that on the daily, the German market broke out here, very nice breakout, and holding on above those levels, which is very good. And also the RSI breakout above that level. So this one is showing strength, trading very well above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. So this is a very strong market. If we take a look at the weekly, you see that it has now had 3 weeks since the breakout. Most recent breakout was above this level here. So we have 1-2 weeks above that breakout level. A very strong market. Right now I'm looking at an RSI that is also breaking out there. That's very strong. Another strong market is the London market. And as you can see from the daily, it moved above this price channel highs there. That's a nice breakout. We have now if you take a look at the London market, it has not broken out on the weekly. It needs to do that, but we've broken out of this channel, of this wedge type formation here. So there was a breakout. So breakout above that wedge type formation, but we come back to this closing highs on a weekly time frame of about 67.23. So stalling around here could be problematic, but right now seems to be breaking out of that wedge. If I can show you the wedge again, because maybe I wasn't very here. There was a wedge here, and so we moved above that wedge. So that's bullish short term. Problem I see is on the RSI again, coming back to this level where it's been stalling. So at least this is a market that wants to move higher, breaking out of a range. And let's take a look at one more. It's Australian market here, which is showing breakout level here. It broke out there, nice entry point there. It's held above that level. The RSI trying to break out here, so I'm gonna say it's a breakout for now. If it stalls and forms a double top, then I'll say it's resistance setup. But here it's breaking out. I'm gonna look at it from that angle. And if you take a look at the weekly, you'll see that the weekly is, and what seems like a cup handle and a breakout formation. So it's week number 2 of that breakout. So here is a market that is also breaking out. So we see mixed markets. Some markets, especially in Asia, seem to be pulling back, and European markets for the most part seem to be healthy. So that is how it's looking like as far as other markets are concerned. Now let's take a look at commodities here. We're going to begin with crude oil, or actually we're going to take a look at the USO, which tracks the crude oil market. Now I'm going to begin by saying, let me go to the weekly first and foremost. Let me show you what at the end of last week, we were trading with the RSI at 50. The RSI was trading at 50.08, and so that was 08. So I was suggestive, and I talked about the fact that we were potentially breaking this RSI support trend line, trading just above 50. So when we opened the week with a down movement, that was good for what seems like to be a big down week. Now you'll notice this is very accurate, because every time this market has moved below 50, like the last time it did here, we had a big drop. That week we had another big drop this week here, moving below 50, which was this big period there. We had another big drop here in price, which was this drop here. So it's just been doing the same thing. And there was another big drop somewhere around here, which is this move below 50. So we got the same movement here, and hence this big move lower. So that makes sense. So this is not a surprise, but what I want to show you is a daily, and the daily gives us an interesting view into what's going on. Why? Because if you take a look, ever since we started moving here, this level, so we draw a straight line, which is this line I've drawn here. So that line there, you'll notice that ever since we formed this breakout here, which was a nice entry point there to the lows, this has been very good support. Support here, which was this lows, support here, which was this lows here, support here, which was this lows, and now we are back at this level here. Also happens to be an area around the 200-day moving average. So this is where naturally, if this has been what has been helping the market find some ground here and move higher, maybe this could also be an area where crude oil has hit a floor short term, and we might see the USO and crude oil start creeping to the upside in the coming weeks, in the coming months. This has been very reliable. This entry point in this RSI level here has been very reliable going back to middle of last year. So maybe it's going to find support there again. What I really find interesting is take a look at this observation here. This is the middle of April here. Middle of April. All right. So take note of that, middle of April here, time frame. There was a low here in this market. This market was selling off. I want to show you an interesting observation. If you take a look at the UNG, at that particular time period in April here, the UNG was on a very strong breakout mode. It was breaking out above this level here. So breaking out, and yet crude oil was selling off. It happens that this was a trap, because after that the crude oil market would start moving higher, and as you can see, UNG made a high. That is a high for the year, which is this RSI level here. So interestingly, right now, to see what's going to happen if the USO has found support, and if the USO is about to move higher, is natural gas going to start creeping to the downside? You know, that's what I'm watching. We'll see what happens. Let's take a look at the next commodity, and we are looking at steel, SLX. Now we had a nice breakout. We had a breakout here, which has been successful. A breakout here with a follow through 2 weeks above that level.